Okay, so I just wanted to really quickly give you a preview of Unit 2. So there's actually only 4 units in the entire year. I'm hoping we can get through most of 3 of them. So Unit 2 is assembly design. So up until now, what we've done is we've had a couple of projects that are multiple parts, like the headphone case was 2 parts that were supposed to fit together. And hopefully what you noticed through that process was it's really hard to determine if those 2 parts are going to fit when they're in separate tabs and you're never able to actually put them together in the 3D model. You had to print them off and see if they fit and then make changes. That's a really tedious process. So obviously computer programs like this have the ability to assemble multiple parts. And so that's going to be what Unit 2 is all about. We're going to do this a couple of different ways. And I think Project Lead the Way has called it like top down and bottom up or something like that. The normal way you'd typically see this done is you'd make your separate parts and then you'd assemble them. That's their bottom up assembly model. And then the top down is actually a really, really powerful tool. And it's this idea that you can design an entire assembly together in one environment where you can actually see all the parts and design based off of each other. So that one's a little trickier. You've got a lot more going on the screen, but there's some really great benefits of that. So we'll talk about that this unit. So this unit is broken up into, I think, 3 lessons and then a project at the end. The first one is going to be put it together. And this one is where we're actually going to talk about how to assemble separate parts into a file, into an assembly. So we'll learn how to create those bottom-up assemblies. And we'll learn about all of the different ways to attach things. So we'll talk about attaching things in real life, like things like screws and adhesives. We'll talk about things like press fitting. And with that kind of thing, press fitting, you've never heard about that, is this idea when 2 parts actually don't fit together, where the thing going in is actually bigger than the hole it goes into. You have to press it in, but then they'll stay put together. Along with that, we're going to have to talk about what's called tolerances. And that's actually the first unit we'll talk about tomorrow, is tolerances and how we know that parts are going to fit together when we make them. Because manufacturing is not perfect. Just because you say this thing has to be 2 inches, you're not going to get 2 inches out of it. So how close does it have to be? Next one here is take it apart. So this one is actually going to be kind of a process of reverse engineering an idea. So we'll definitely do some of that. We might jump away from the actual Project Lead the Way thing and try to do that with a little bit more interesting things. So we'll have an option of something that Project Lead the Way gives us, but we'll be taking something apart, seeing how it works, modeling it in Onshape, and then putting all the pieces back together. This is where they're going to start talking about that top-down modeling. So we'll see about that. Unit 3 or lesson 3 is a material world. So this one is going to be about different materials. We're going to learn about the material properties. So that's going to be real life material properties. We'll see how that one goes. But we've got some different things, different plastics, metals, woods that we're going to be testing properties on. And we'll also talk about how to put those properties into your model so that you can actually see, if I made this thing out of plastic, this certain type of plastic, what would it weigh? And we'd be able to figure all that stuff out. And then the final one here is the actual project. This is Fix It. We might not end up getting to this one because there's projects in all of the other units, all the other lessons too. But the idea here is we're going to start with putting pieces together, learning how to do that assembly. We'll do that reverse engineering component, and we'll talk about materials and how we deal with those in Onshape. That's Unit 2. So I'll see you tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about tolerances tomorrow.